I'm Aaron Fletcher.
Courtney Fletcher. We actually met his junior year of high school and my freshman year of high school. We both played basketball at the time, and just from crossing paths in the gym, and the boys and the girls would scrimmage each other sometimes.
And obviously after that, for whatever reason, things didn't quite work out when we were younger. So 11 years later, we ended up hanging out. It was through a mutual friend, and so again, I was actually helping the girls' basketball team, and she was too, and we ended up hanging out through that, and one thing led to another. Initially, when we were in high school, it was probably the fact that obviously she's beautiful, but it was the fact that we had mutual interests in basketball. Playing against her, I think that there were aspects of that. Later on down the road, honestly, again, she's still beautiful, but her tattoos caught my eye, and that was something I'd always actually kind of been intrigued by, and I just fell in love with him.
He has the biggest heart of anyone I think I've ever met. He's just so caring, and he teaches special needs children, and I think just to even have that job and to enjoy it as much as he does, you have to really care about people.
We had a first date, sort of. We actually just went as friends and watched the first Deadpool movie when it came out. Ended up a little late, sat way too close to the front. I had to lean back and stare, look straight up. That was kind of interesting. But after that, what I would actually consider our first date, it was again just as friends, but there was a little more to it because we had hung out for a little while, and after hanging out with that mutual friend, we actually ended up the three of us going out, but it felt like it was different. It felt like more of he was the third wheel and we were going out together more than it did before.
It was all him.
Yeah. I mean, after a couple of attempts, probably.
Yeah, it took a few times.
Took a couple times of me trying. I think that she was probably wary of, I don't know probably the same situation happened before, but.
And I had just gotten out of a 9-year relationship, so I wasn't really looking for another long-term thing at that point. We have been dating since January 15th of 2016, and we've been married since this past October. I said it first, and I think we had officially been dating. It wasn't too long.
It wasn't too long because we had such prior knowledge.
We've had known each other forever, really. And it just kind of felt like we picked up where we left off in high school, but it's probably about 4 months in.
Something like that. We actually didn't rush into dating again either. I mean, we probably talked for, a month or so before and hung out around each other a lot. Really got to know each other again, in some way, and it just took off.
And we had decided to have a small costume party for us, and it's probably about 6 or 8 other friends were here. And
some of our better friends.
Yeah, we had just spent the night playing games like charades, and we had a horror movie quiz that everyone took to see who would score the highest on. And then the last game of the night was where you're blindfolded and you stick your hand in a bowl or box and you try to guess whatever gross thing is in there. I'm feeling around in this bowl and I cannot figure out what it is. So finally everyone's just like, okay, take your blindfold off. So I look in the bowl and it's this little wooden coffin that says "You Are the One" on it. And when I opened it up, there was a half of a fake finger with a spider ring on it. And at that point, it still didn't hit me what was going on. So some of the other friends were like, well, turn around. And then he was knelt down with the ring.
In another coffin box.
Yeah, in another coffin box that had my favorite hymn song on it. So.
I had a pretty good feeling that she was going to I mean, I felt like that she was going to say yes. I felt like the time was right for both of us. But you don't get over that kind of just nauseous feeling and scared to death that she's going to, for whatever reason, whether she won't like the ring or whether she won't like the proposal or something could go wrong. And I think that was part of my mindset it was just fear. I mean, and I don't know that it was as much fear that she was going to say no as it was just nervous about the situation in general. But it was emotional. Of course, I cried again. As you can see, I'm a crier. But that night she did too.
Yeah, it got me that time.
Pretty good. One of my favorite moments is the day that we married. The second I turned around and saw her at the end of the aisle, from what I remember being able to see, because I had a lot going on emotionally, that was the moment I turned around and saw her. It was just completely different. I mean, there was a whole different feeling that I just lost everything I had, and which I know that me and my groomsmen, they had all taken bets on how long it'd take for me to cry, which I think somebody won in the first 5 minutes. I started crying while we were still actually before the wedding even started.
Everyone knows I'm not as emotional as he may be, but just seeing him like that and knowing how he feels about me and how much he loves me is just, that's probably my favorite. There's not a lot that makes me want to cry, but it was really hard for me to hold it together. And then his dad, who is a big teddy bear too, was standing behind him, and he got a little teary-eyed, but I felt extremely lucky. Leading up to the wedding, it's just madness and craziness and just a big ball of stress. But the morning of, I felt this sense of calm all day. Everything went off without a hitch. We didn't have any, wedding day disasters that you hear about. Some of my favorite parts of the day was my niece was actually one of my flower girls. And she's 11, so she's a little bit older, but she wanted me to do her hair and her makeup for the wedding, so I enjoyed getting to do that with her. And my brother actually walked me down the aisle, and his reaction when he walked in the room and seen me in my dress was another big one for me. And then, of course, him.
Me being an emotional wreck completely made her day better. Obviously, my favorite moment of the wedding was the very second that it was actually she walked out of the room that she was getting ready in and walked to the kind of back of the room. And I can remember I was supposed to turn around and not see her, kind of face my dad, who was the pastor and officiated the ceremony. And my brother was going to tell me when it was okay to turn around. As soon as she walked out of the room, my brother looks at me and says, "You're in trouble." And the second he said that, and I'm kind of watching everybody else's reactions too, and everybody else is like, every groomsman just kind of like, wow, and it was that feeling. The second I didn't have to turn around. I already knew, and I was already starting to, but the second I turned around, it was uncontrollable. Like, there was uncontrollable joy. Obviously these tears were tears of pure happiness, a happiness that I've personally never felt, other than that moment. I mean, obviously being married to her, I'm happy, but that moment was just uncontrollable. And part of that is I've been waiting for that day for a long time, and she's absolutely the perfect person for me. I mean, I've never even imagined possibly being with anybody else, and I think just that moment, things just hit me that, okay, this is for real, and I can't control what's coming out of my face right now. It was probably snot and tears, and it was a lot. But I wouldn't change a second of it. The wedding was beautiful. Everything from the ceremony to the.
It was more than what I had even thought about having.
Yeah, I mean, it was perfect. Everything, like she said, everything went off without a hitch. We had our best friends there. I mean, I don't think, we even have a basketball team we play on together, and even our basketball team came just to be part of it, and it was it was an amazing day, and there's not really a better way to describe it.
Traveling has kind of been our thing since the beginning, but a favorite would definitely have to be our honeymoon. We went to Salem, Massachusetts, and we're both really into Halloween and horror, and we just went there and did all the witch trial stuff, and around that time of year the whole town is just decked out for Halloween, and it's a big festival the whole month, so it was really cool.
I would actually say it's actually very true that as long as you have a happy wife, you have a happy life. She's everything that I could have ever dreamed of, and I think when you find that person, you want them to be. It's not only about them being happy because they're not mad at you. It's just about seeing them happy, and that's something actually before I was ever married, I probably laughed at that saying, but to me it rings true because as long as she's happy, I really am happy. Like there's nothing, for me, there's nothing else in the world that matters.
Your love definitely changes after you get married. I mean, I loved him before we were married, but the day that we got married, it felt different, stronger. So.
Yeah, there was more of I think there was an unbreakable bond that was kind of put into place that day, and I think that both of us felt it. Of course, the crying probably didn't hurt, but